So who is Phantaminum, and why did he decide to storm Jahad's castle? These two puzzling questions reverberate throughout all the tower that everybody wants to know the answer to both of them. We as fans know the answer to one. Who is Phantaminum? And he would be an Axis in the story, but we don't know why he would go out of his way to storm Jahad's castle, slaughter all of his guards, get to Jahad himself, and leave. But I have a theory about that. I think most fans know what an Axis is and about the Tulsa User universe, but I think a couple of us still don't, so I'm just gonna break it down just in case. The Tulsa User universe is a universe under the premise that the world is comprised of several tales as its center, and these tales persist as unchangeable records. In other words, in Tulsa User stories, the past cannot change and the future is already set. Once written, a tale from the Tulsa User universe cannot be set back or restored to a previous state. So basically what it's saying is that events that happen in a Tulsa User story are absolute, and nothing can change the future or the past. The future is set, the past cannot be changed. So now, we gotta wonder, what is an Axis? An Axis is basically a god. Basically, it's somebody who's able to influence one of those unchangeable stories, so he can write records of that story. So basically he can control the future and the past. He can basically write the entire story. So basically he's just a god of one of the stories in the Tulsa User universe, which means that the ruler of the tower, the god of the tower that's been referenced, is most likely an Axis. But now that begs the question. Phantaminum is an Axis, as I said, but SIU did say that Phantaminum will most likely not appear in the story again. Phantaminum has to do with the stories that SIU wrote before Tower of God, which he purged off the internet and everywhere else, by the way, so you can't find them because he doesn't want Tower of God to be spoiled. But Phantaminum does predate Tower of God, and he was an Axis or some sort of component to those stories before, which means that Phantaminum is most likely not the god of this tower, which means that Phantaminum was meddling in an entirely different Axis' field, their story, to go out of his way to attack Jahad, which I find interesting because Axis users, their powers don't have any correlation to each other, except for the fact that they just, write stories and such. But Phantaminum is a very powerful Axis, and Axis can only be defeated by a stronger Axis, and non-Axis users cannot meddle with them whatsoever. They can't even harm them. And since they have influence over one story in the Tulsa User universe, I would imagine that means they don't really get in each other's business too much. And yet, if it's true that Phantaminum is not the Axis of Tower of God, for him to go into the tower and meddle with this Axis users, the Axis that controls the tower, with Jahad, I just find that kind of interesting. Why Phantaminum would even do something like that in the first place. And I have an idea on that. So remember what I said about Axis controlling the story, being able to influence it and write over it? Basically, they have control over fate. Remember what Jahad said in the hidden floor on the Hell Train and the data floor? When young Jahad was talking to him? He said, "I seek to place fate under my control." That sounds suspiciously like the powers of an Axis. So if Jahad is seeking to place fate under his control and he's meddling in that whole arena, that could either mean A, he's trying to become an Axis, or B, he's not, but he's meddling in the field of the Axises. Potentially, if Phantaminum was out here living his life, and he sensed Jahad meddling in the realm and business of the Axises, it could have made him angry enough to go into another Axis field and storm Jahad's castle. Because one thing you'll notice is he slaughtered all of Jahad's high rankers, but when he got to Jahad, he left without a fight. And I'm wondering if that's because he only went there to threaten Jahad, maybe said something to him about not meddling with fate, and then he disappeared. But for Phantaminum, an Axis, to go meddle in the story, Jahad had to do something to make him mad, and it was probably meddling with fate like he's been trying to do. So yeah, that's my little theory on why Phantaminum stormed Jahad's castle. If you enjoy my content, and only if you enjoy my content, like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications for more manhwa, manga content. I mean, I'm going to be posting more Tower of God. I got a hot theory on the guides coming out soon, so if you want to hear about that, stay tuned for the next video drop, because I'm going to make that guide theory. Anyway, I'll see you all in the next video.